Yo, what's good everyone? In this video, I'm going to show you 100 pro trio tips that are going to turn your trio into the next powerhouse. These are 100 of the best trio tips that I can come up with so your trio can finally start making some cash. Whether you are fairly new to trios or have been playing a lot with your team recently, there's got to be at least a few tips in here that you haven't heard before, or maybe even tips that you forgot about. There is not even one video about this topic on all of YouTube, and today we're going to change that. If I miss anything in this video, leave a comment so I can heart it for others to see. Share your tips down below and let's pop off. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, link below, and use code KenBeans in the shop if you like this series. Consider subscribing because a series like this is going to make you go pro. There's going to be a 1,000 V-Buck code giveaway for all the support recently. If you want to enter it, just check the description down below, and in 2 to 3 days I'm going to randomly select a winner on my Twitch channel. If you got a lot of impulses, seriously get used to going up with one impulse, then throwing another one at the team on height. Doing this right guarantees you high ground every time. Whenever you res a teammate from the reboot, create a little base out of hard mats to at least give yourself a chance of surviving for more than about 10 seconds. If any trio hears you, you're going to get hard pushed. Lots of trios bait the reboot for free kills. Everyone on the trio has to be a very good box fighter. Solos you could just full send, but you never want to fully exploit into a trio's box. Even if they're all weak, you're going to be taking an unnecessary risk. You're better going for a wall, getting piece control, and spray from afar. The freest trio kill of your life. If you ever have one of the other enemy players jump on your box, or they're even inside your box, in a calmly fashion, call over your trio to get that player distracted. Then just go around to another wall, and that guy's going to look clueless. Unexperienced trio players never do this. It's a bad habit. If you're resing a teammate in a box, sometimes you want to build out one box just in case your wall gets sprayed. It's a small thing that takes 2 seconds that could potentially save your teammate's life. As a trio on height, never all be completely ahead of zone. You're literally asking to get mopped. What you want to do is have the in-game leader focusing on staying ahead with hard mats, while the other 2 players stay back to pressure and look for kills or potential refreshes. A good way to keep height is by not all being directly on the same layer. You have to big dick height and be spread to cover more ground, so if one of you gets shot out, you still have height. In crazy stack games, you want to limit the amount you box fight or even fight people. Unless there's a clear advantage, you're gonna feel like your ping is 500. Look at Save It and his trio. They have 3 different angles on high ground, all spread out. If you hear a shockwave being used, chances are you want to call it out no matter the situation, because half the time your teammates are distracted or the audio just isn't there for them. Focus on calming the important things: the amount of AR ammo you got, the hard match you got, or even the heals you have left. If you're ever a solo with a bunch of trios left in a closing zone, one of the best ways to win is through a heal off. There's no chance you take a 1v3 and win. You'd have better luck getting KenBeans to 100k by the end of this week. If you're IGL, or even if you're the one who happens to be tarping ahead, you should practice not building directly straight across. Focus on making this U shape with your build so you can easily look back and hold kids. This is one of those last second fadeaway buzzer beater type plays. One of the other ways to win a 1v3 is to use your shockwave to shoot you in the air, then shockwave the whole trio into the zone. I may have a hard time finding the correct clip for this, but I have seen this executed before. It's risky, but it's better than getting sprayed out. This is similar for the first tip, but I'm talking about the closing zone on this one. Hitting a rift with a trio, there's 2 things to keep in mind. Sometimes when there's a lot of people in the air with you, the best play might be to fly directly above height because it's a very awkward angle to line up a shot. Other times when you know you're not getting height, you don't want to fly over a height team because you'll deploy your glider way too early. Realize you can cuck yourself if you stay over the height team. Experience is key here. If you and one of your teammates find yourself securing a kill by boxing a kid up in your tarp, both of you should not be running over the loot like barbarians. Whoever is further ahead should leave it for the person who is closest to the body. Your boys will get the mats. Keep in mind it's so rare that one player will have such stacked loot for 2 people to come over and get it. If you find yourself low ground with a rift fish, give all your heals to one teammate and use the rift on you and your other teammate. The goal is to dive straight down and grief the other kid or kids on height so that they tank storm just a little bit for your teammate to get that dub. People who only carry dragon shotties only keep them for mid game and off spawn fight. By the time the moving zone starts, every pro prefers attack or a charge, maybe even a lever action shotty with the new meta. There should always be one player on the team holding a harpoon. Not only is it used for loot, but it could literally be free kills if you drop a player down in your box. Your IGL should always be looking for dead side zone. When you're on dead side, you save mats and you're at less risk to losing health. If one of you have more than 4 fish, this is a free win. All you need to do is tarp, and when final zone is closing, play flops. Don't take my word for it, take Save It.
Okay boys, please listen. We need to tarp, and then when it's endgame I need to go and play flops. Yeah, that's all we need to do.
This is Storm Surge and when it activates. I assure you this is right, so replay it if you get confused. First is the damage. It does 25 damage to shield or HP if you're below the damage threshold. There are 9 zone phases in Fortnite. The warnings happen the zone before. Second zone, there's a warning. When third zone opens, only 70 players are allowed. In the fourth zone, there's a warning. And when fifth zone opens, it starts killing. There are only 50 players allowed. Sixth zone is a warning for the rest of all zones. There's only 30 players allowed in zones 7 to 9. FYI, Storm Surge is an arena and pubs, but it never gets triggered good because the lobby dies out so fast. If your trio is ever getting hit by Storm Surge, stay calm. The Surge isn't gonna one pump. Just keep doing your thing and keep in mind it's not that hard to get tags in moving zones. Even if one player sprays a wall that was just built, you're more than likely gonna break through it and get some tags. The average solo player would drop down if they're high up and getting sprayed out. Savid plays this like a genius. Settling for second place is way more viable than trying to drop down in elevation to this trio. Don't let your ego get to you, and don't be a walking refresh for the trio on the bottom. Try to tank zone for a couple seconds to see if you can get one more placement. Stop taking damage on rifts from poor timing. I see a lot of people making this mistake. Make sure you time the rift correct. The goal is to not take damage in the zone while you're coming out of the sky. A perfect rift is timing it just right to the point where you guys are hugging the end of zone so you take full advantage of the movement. If you're ever rezzing a down teammate, one person holds the walls while the other is rezzing. Unless you're getting team or lobby focused, leave the body. RIP your boy. Start picking up bodies after you kill someone and bring them into your own target. Whenever you kill a kid, their teammates usually rush over so they don't get finished. Throwing them into your own box is a safer play. Jiving tip. Trio piece control. If you're box fighting and pushing another trio, here's the best way to do it. Only one player, usually with the best ping, goes for piece control and getting builds anywhere they can while the other two constantly keep pressure on them with their gun. This takes a lot of practice and communication. Stop pressuring people from the same wall as the trio when you get into mid-game fights. Having angles on the enemy is going to make it way easier to kill them. Constantly being next to each other is a no-go. Everyone on the team needs to know how to look for kills endgame. I've mentioned a bunch of ways already, but if one player doesn't know, fill them in real quick. Also tell that bot to use code Kevins in the shout. If you're ever trying to get a free rotate under people's builds, why don't you throw a quick cone in their box so they can't double it down on you while you're moving? It might make them second guess opening up their wall because there's a random cone inside of it. If your team is ever tarping next to someone on your layer, a pro strat is to spray them off your layer and force them to drop. I don't know if you noticed, but I can bet if you don't do this, you're the one that it's happening to. When you're dead side zone like Arab here, pay attention to conserving mats. You don't need to place the wall on your left because it's uncontested. I learned this from Jivin, he worded it well. A W key tourney are things like cash cups that allow contenders to play in them. The better events like FNCS require you to be in champs and are usually way more packed. Realize what you're in so you know whether to go for kills or placement. Don't be that guy who dies when you're pushing the last kid on the enemy trio. Whenever you knock 2 out of the 3 kids on the other team, be patient with the last guy when you box fight them. They look to sue you every single time. Look how Savage is playing right here. Not only can you use the harpoon late game, but even in mid game fights. If your team gets someone weak, you can jump right in for an easy kill. If there is ever a kid who manages to get away from you, don't grief yourself and chase him around the whole map. It's better to put your ego aside and move on. Savage was about to let this guy go once he impulsed for the 3rd time and used multiple bouncers, but he picked up the kill the last second. One kill is not worth positioning. This might not necessarily be a trio tip, but whenever someone edits a wall right away, especially out of metal, you could easily take it back as long as you have your shotty out. Works every time to gain piece control. This is the reason why Savage is just chilling in front of this wall after he tried to take it. For the off chance a team is camping in a bush, pretty simple. You can always see who's in a bush if you look directly down at it compared to the sides. FYI, you can also land in bushes from high ground and not take fall damage. You need to practice rotations as a trio in a game that doesn't hold any weight. Be up to date with the rotation strats. Be roughly aware how far you can land as a trio when you use a bouncer shock. Also, just a normal shock. An extremely consistent trio shockwave method is to use a stair and just throw that shockwave directly in the middle. The most slept on rotation strat. You want to walk into the center person when you shock to land closer together. It's a legit thing that I don't see many people do, simply because if you block the person in the middle, they'll go straight up in the air. This is going to be mentioned in a later tip. On a trio, there are 3 roles: in-game leader, support, and fragger. Maybe a tarper as well. This tip is to make sure the right people have the right roles. The IGL is the one with the most knowledge about the game in general and the most end-game experience. They're familiar with moving zones. The support usually stays back and fights with heals and puts pressure on kids from afar. The fragger has the best mechanics all around, really good at box fights. Most people fall into this role, and this kid is probably the impatient one. Follow up: even though you are said role, you should learn how each role functions so that you could do your own role even better. Keep comms clear of things that don't help the team if you're serious about winning. Lock in when you compete in tourneys. Talking about what you did today in the middle of a tourney is just information that's not important. I gotta be the one to say this. Don't be that guy who constantly whines and comes up with excuses every time. Just take it to the chest and mention something useful to your teammates that are alive. Maybe like their mat count. Know the difference between being a backseat gamer and being a helper. Unless your teammate is blatantly missing something, don't call out all the little things. The best way to learn is by making mistakes. It makes them calmer when they don't have to worry about you rambling in their ear while they're trying to clutch. When one person is alive, make sure only one person talks, not both of you. If you're ever throwing your teammate off your shoulders, you can throw him from any height and he's not going to take fall damage. You see how Savage and Benji are attacking from behind the trio while Nate is at the front trying to take the wall? As long as you guys are replacing from a safe position, it's literally a walking refresh. You got to make sure you never stand in front of the person who is throwing the shot. It makes them bounce into you and shoots them vertically up in the air. You want to walk into the person who's throwing the shot, but you don't want to walk in front of him, if that makes sense. You got to go in creative and practice this yourself. You always need to refresh the IGL's mats endgame. Everyone knows that. But it's even important to do that same thing mid-game as well. The IGL's in charge of how to rotate, so he always needs the hard mats on the team. Don't be afraid to boss your trio around as an IGL. Don't be obnoxious and bust ears with your headset mic down your throat, but just be stern. If there's a consistent bad com being made by the IGL, either get a new one or talk about how you guys can improve it as a team so it doesn't happen again. If you're ever rotating with a shock or a bouncer, be the last team to go because the first one always gets beamed and greased. Simple tip, but you guys should always be using the glider that has the surfing animation. Whenever you're rifting in late game, it's impossible to land headshots. Ideally, you should all be wearing the same skin, back bling, and have the same pickaxe, but if you don't, it's nothing crazy. I thought it would be good to mention it because if a team beams you, they can't call you out. Make sure everyone on your team is disabling pre-edits. This is the new god tier setting. Thank you, Epic. Since we're in the settings, no matter what PC you got, turn everything to low and keep the 3D resolution as high as you can. Sometimes lowering the resolution by about 3 to 5% gives a small FPS boost, by the way. Personally, what I do is turn my view distance up to far, and even though some say to increase textures, I don't really notice a difference, so I leave that low. Ever find yourself getting lobby focused? Here's a few things to do. 1, get behind natural cover like mountains if possible. 2, the most important, depending on where you are, change layers or go to old settled builds. 3, just die because you're getting grief. Don't be the one kid who forgets to shake down. The only time you don't shake down is when they are literally on your box or a teammate is box fighting them above or below you. If you guys are all in the same box and one player drops on your wall, that is a straight up walking care package. Box him up and full send on him. He won't be able to kill 3 of you at once. If you're ever fighting near the Mandalorian or the IO guards, you will 100% get grief by them every time. Vice versa, if you ever see a team fighting them or about to, start pressuring them to make them panic. Make sure you chill for a bit after landing in the open to not get lobby focused. Let the builds harden, then do what you gotta do. Since we're talking trios, any team can start a lobby focus. 3 guys is more than enough to spray through builds. If more teams join in on you getting focused, that is what I call you are the chosen one, my friend. Low ground is the best time to look for drop downs before moving zones. Really pay attention to refreshes like these. They can change the pace of the game. Learned this tip not too long ago myself. As you tarp, you want to cut off other teams. This is the most utilized strat in the world. If you get hit while in a moving zone, when you land, you want to consider building a little ahead before you pop minis in your little 1x1. You're way less vulnerable and give yourself time to heal before the zone catches up. If you're the IGL in the team, tell someone to lead for you for a little bit while you pop minis and then take the roll back. Knowing there's impulses in the game, Savage and his trio do not drop at the same time. Yet again, another strat that no one really talks about, but it's important for new people. That way there's always pressure being applied from Savage's team. Don't be afraid to coordinate a storm tank rotation. You gotta have the confidence as an IGL to make calls like this, even though you don't know where you're gonna end up. Any layer was better than that one though. If you guys full send a hot landing spot, land same building regardless. Focusing on that drop to get the lowest one is so important. That's why you master multiple spots. If you land far away, you're asking to get grief. When you get one knock on a team that has multiple kids inside the box, just close up the edits and try to kill them from another angle. Going for a thirst can grief your game. If your game ever crashes, this will 100% of the time fix it. Control Alt Delete, click switch user and sign back in. It brings you back into the game every single time. If you guys constantly rage a lot when you die, back out instantly so you don't spectate the other players that kill you. This is just one way not to bring the vibes completely down during the long drawn out game. You want to leave before you get L danced on because that's going to trigger you even more. Practice more than one landing spot, so if you consistently die off spawn a few games, you can switch it up and feel comfortable. You guys should be getting on relatively early to practice. The later you get on, the less likely you might be able to practice in a scrim core. If your teammate calls out someone as one shot, make sure you focus them too. Don't continue shooting someone else. It's not worth your time. Stop being the guy who begs for revives. Be totally honest with yourself before you call out your resume. Don't give criticism right away after a mistake is made. Do it in the lobby. Personally, I would wait till the whole thing is over and then review it from there. One of you needs to start marking the zone more often, especially if you're dead. If you're someone who can't find a trio, you're more than likely gonna have to settle for someone around your skill level. As an IGL, learn all the ways to tunnel. Don't forget about the awkward tunnels when going up in elevation. Force yourself to play lots of arena. Plenty of pros preach this, and it's a good way to get on the same page before a tournament. Simply put, if you have a down teammate, one of you carry your down teammate while the other one riffs so all you guys can relocate. Don't be scared to use mats. You guys have 4,500 mats total, so you can burn through them a little more than duos and solos to be in a better position. Make sure when you guys are box fighting mid game to use hard mats in fight. Since the other trio can coordinate a spray, you don't want to leave a wood wall somewhere. If you're ever trying to take a full trio's wall, take advantage of the distance to edit with your map out. This is how you spray them while chilling behind the right hand peak. If you're rotating and happen to be near some IO guards, a full trio can wipe them out in seconds if coordinated correctly. I think it's worth now in this new update because they drop more shield. This might not necessarily be a trio tip, but I can guarantee you someone doesn't know this. When you're confirming a bounty, all you got to do is just press your interact button twice to confirm it. So for me, I press E twice. You don't need a left click. I just find this to be faster. If there is ever a time when one of the other kids on the trio are separated, you guys need to pounce on that kid for a free kill. If you're taking height and only have 2 shocks for your team, a nice second option might be to give a bouncer to the one who doesn't have a shot. If you ever get an RPG late game, your goal should 100% be to go for height. If you have an RPG and a harpoon, it's literally a GG for the lobby. Make sure you're at least 2 boxes away and shoot the RPG, then quickly switch to your harpoon to break the wall. Practice communicating a lot the second you guys get into a fight. Too many players leave their teammates on islands nowadays. Just practice being vocal vocal without screaming your lungs out. Stop running through tarps that aren't yours. You're asking to grief your game, especially if you have mats. Make the tarp easy and simple. You shouldn't be creating the next raid or edit course during an endgame. If you guys can't develop chemistry in a few weeks, then that's a good indicator that the trio won't work long term. Get together as a team and discuss your options for the future. As a trio, come up with realistic goals during tournaments. Say something like, let's aim for 150 points total and let's try to get at least one win. Have a game plan for the tourneys you play in. Let's W key the first 3 games and try to slay out, then go for placement the rest. Organize your thoughts to your team so that they can understand the common goal. Jiving tip: when you're height, you need to focus grief any trio you see slightly exposed or building at a wood late game. Spraying at a stacked team that's second height forces them to take fights on the low ground and more than likely even die if they have good mats. This is one of the biggest misconceptions. Not every role is a finite thing. The IGL is commonly paired with tarping late game. That doesn't always have to be the case. The IGL doesn't have to focus on tarping and can call other stuff out if that's the area they lack in. Just make sure one person on the team has the final say. You need someone to lead you to that fat dub.
Beans, we finally made it. Tip 100.
Oh man, if you're looking to qual every time, use code ChemBeans for some good luck. It has a 100% success rate. Don't believe me? Just check the comments. I know the boys got me. There just ain't no way you made it this far and haven't hit the sub button yet. Listen, if you made it to the end, leave a 100 in the comments so I know who the real ones are. Do me a favor, consider using code ChemBeans the next time you buy something, and just as important, hit the like button and that sub button for the one time. If this video doesn't deserve a like for 100 tips and tricks for trios, I don't know what does. Friendly reminder, I do stream on Twitch, link to all my socials down below. Shout out to everyone on the screen right now using my code. If you want to be featured, just send me a DM on Twitter or Instagram. You guys are some damn goats, man. We almost at 50K at the time of making this. We starting out 2021 going hard. I love you guys and catch you in the next one. Peace.